More than half of Canadian snowbirds are walking away from their U.S. homes. And this time, it's not just about money. Politics, climate disasters, and even one shocking immigration raid have collided to turn this snowbird season into something unlike anything we've ever seen before. And here's the twist. The fallout isn't just hitting Canadians. It's hitting U.S. towns and cities that have depended on snowbird dollars for decades. For those who do not know, snowbirds are Canadians who flee the cold winters north of the border by moving south, typically to Florida, Arizona, or California. For decades, it's more than a tradition, more like a way of life. Snowbirds don't vacation, they invest. They purchase condos, second homes, and long-term rentals. They drive cash into restaurants, golf courses, car lots, medical clinics, you name it. To put this into perspective, a single snowbird family can spend upwards of $50,000 in just one season. Multiply that across hundreds of thousands of Canadians, and you're looking at billions flowing into the U.S. economy every single winter. For Florida, snowbirds aren't tourists. They're economic pillars. Here's the catch, though. This year, all of it has changed. A new survey has uncovered something surprising. Well over half of Canadian snowbirds are selling their U.S. homes. Some have already sold out. Others are putting their homes on the market as I write this. And the reasons they're citing, they're a thorn in the side of any company trying to get by on snowbird season. From the Royal LePage poll, 54% of Canadian homeowners in the U.S. have sold or soon will sell. That's more than half of Canada's snowbird elite closing up shop, closing their doors, and leaving America behind. But here's where it gets even more revealing. Among those who intend to sell, a whopping 62% directly blamed the present U.S. political regime. And among those who've already sold, almost half, 44%, cited politics as the last straw. Consider that. These aren't merely economic choices. These are families making life-changing decisions because they no longer feel safe, included, or welcome. And it didn't take a while to do. Realtors have said entire condo markets experienced Canadians putting up all of their properties at the same time. Not a steady stream in 6 months, but a flood. Like everybody collectively decided, we're done. One Canadian realtor even said it didn't even feel like an investment decision at all. It felt like making a political statement. And when you see that kind of coordinated withdrawal, you know the tide has turned. So, what does this do to the U.S.? Let's consider Florida. Snowbirds aren't renters for a few months of the year. They're steady investors who provide reliability to small businesses. They're filling golf courses on Tuesday mornings, making early dinner reservations, and keeping local stores open during the off-seasons. Now consider half or more of them disappeared. That translates to fewer cars being purchased, fewer houses being kept up, fewer meals eaten out, and fewer tickets purchased at local amusement parks. When the families who were spending $50,000 a season all of a sudden start to no-show, the void they leave is not only financial, it's psychological. It's about faith in the market, and currently that faith is disappearing. Already, real estate agents are seeing a surge in inventory in snowbird-heavy areas. In Florida's popular 55 and older retirement villages, places previously dominated by Canadian buyers, villages are piling up like never before. And the million-dollar question in the air is straightforward. What becomes of these villages when the very people who sustained them suddenly disappear? Condos that were once listed for less than $100,000 are now remaining idle for 8 months or longer. An unthinkable situation in Florida states, formerly touted as among the hottest real estate markets in America. For Florida, Arizona, and California business owners who depend on it, this is not a number on a survey. They see it as the failure of their winter season before it even happens. So the question is, why now? Why are Canadians withdrawing in record amounts? The top answer: politics. Canadians have had it with what they experience when crossing the border. The same poll showed that 62% of those intending to sell directly attributed the blame to today's U.S. political leadership. The so-called Trump effect, The bombast, the tumult, the outright hostility from MAGA mobs isn't merely influencing attitudes, it's pushing people out of the nation altogether. And it's not just a matter of not liking an individual politician, it's the vibe that follows him. Snowbirds for years would comment similarly. It just doesn't feel the same anymore. That warm embrace they experienced has gradually given way to suspicion. To many, the welcoming smiles have become outright hostility. Supporters of MAGA are not afraid to tell immigrants to go home. And when you hear that message repeatedly, you begin to believe it. Suddenly, what was supposed to be a sunny retreat comes to feel like a bet, a high-stress one. So ask yourself, would you really continue to pour tens of thousands of dollars into a resort where you don't feel welcome anymore? Would you gamble on higher rates, political tension, and the ever-present threat of natural disasters wiping out your investment? For more and more Canadians, the answer is a definitive, absolutely not. And politics is just half of the story. The cost of living in Florida has skyrocketed. Insurance premiums skyrocket due to hurricanes and flood threats. Maintenance fees just keep rising. The costs of everyday living, food, gas, utilities, are more than ever before. And when you combine that with Canada's lower currency value, where one Canadian dollar only gets you 70 to 75 cents worth in U.S. money, those increased costs feel like a financial suffocation. No wonder, then, that so many snowbirds are walking away, particularly after years of consecutive storms. Each new hurricane season comes around with new damage, increased premiums to pay, and another bout of difficult questions. Many Canadians are now examining their bottom lines and pondering, why am I doing this again? But here's the kicker. Some snowbirds are departing not because they are afraid, but because they are being smart. Those who purchased homes when the Canadian dollar was close to parity with the U.S. dollar are cashing in on their gain, without even increasing their selling price. And all because of differences in currency alone, they can walk away with a 30% or higher profit. For these people, their timing couldn't be more perfect. Still, even those fiscal projections pale in comparison to what is yet to come. Because beyond the hurricanes and beyond the politics is one tale that best reflects how far things have changed in America. It's a headline so absurd, you can't help but wonder if making America better is even worth it anymore. This summer, Washington State was battling its biggest fire, the Bear Gulch Fire. An almost 9,000-acre swath of land was incinerated. People were displaced from their homes. Local fire departments were stretched to the breaking point. In order to preserve houses, woods, and small towns, authorities called in contracted fire teams from Oregon. These women and men left families behind, risked their lives, and worked long, grueling shifts to control the fire. And just when you'd think America would be grateful for their sacrifice, something shocking happened. In the middle of this emergency, Border Patrol showed up. Federal immigration officials drove right into an area of a burning wildfire, lined up 44 tired firefighters, and demanded their identification. Consider it for a moment. Rather than being concerned about the burning fire, these units, men and women, risking their lives, were suddenly confronted with armed officers. 2 of the 44 were arrested on immigration offenses. But then, what happened was worse. The government didn't merely detain those 2 people. They canceled the contracts of both Oregon firms that had hired the firefighting crews and sent the remaining 42 firefighters home. Suddenly, in the midst of a crisis, dozens of frontline heroes were taken off the job. Officials attempted to justify the move, claiming it was about checking contractor compliance. But here's the catch. Existing policy under the Biden administration actually prohibits most types of immigration enforcement at disaster areas. The entire purpose is straightforward. When lives are on the line, one wants to concentrate on saving lives rather than paperwork. And yet, here we are. Indeed, the response was instant. Firefighters labeled the action as dangerous and demoralizing. State leaders slammed it as reckless. And for Canadians, and frankly, for anyone watching from abroad, the bigger question became impossible to ignore. Why would any country send their firefighters to help the U.S. after this? Imagine putting your life on the line in a foreign country, only to be detained, lined up like a suspect, and told you're not welcome. It's outrageous, and it puts a spotlight on a scary truth. America is becoming a nation where even those who attempt to do good work can be treated as criminals. And if that's how the U.S. treats the individuals rescuing its forests, how do you imagine Canadian snowbirds feel? Those attempting only to enjoy a nice warm winter? And so the exodus starts. If Canadians are offloading, where is their money? The survey knows. About one-third, 32%, say they're going to reinvest straight back into Canada's property market, which translates into red-hot demand in Muskoka, Collingwood, Canmore, and Quebec's cottage country. Already popular among retirees and seasonal buyers, these areas are going to be flooded. But it doesn't stop in Canada. Plenty of the snowbirds are venturing even farther south, to Mexico, Costa Rica, Panama, even Thailand. They are less expensive, more politically secure, and much friendlier to outsiders. And, unlike Florida, there's no danger of being caught in the crossfire of America's next political upheaval. That's what makes this change so dramatic. For generations, American states such as Florida constructed winter economies based on the premise that snowbirds would always return, that no matter what, Canadians would continue to purchase condos, patronize restaurants, reserve golf courses, and spend money. But Canadians have awakened to something tremendous: alternatives. And once a family begins to spend winters in Mexico or Muskoka rather than Miami, there is no assurance that they'll ever return. So let's take a step back and consider what this will do for America. First, it's an enormous economic hit. Billions in snowbird spending is not something that can be written off by local businesses. Restaurants, contractors, golf courses, seasonal rentals, all of them will take a hit. Second, it's a reputational loss. When news spreads that Canadians aren't emigrating simply due to expense, but due to politics, aggression, and even immigration sweeps, it sends a signal out there to the rest of the world. The United States doesn't feel secure. It doesn't feel open. And third, it's a lasting change. This isn't a temporary hold until the next administration is in power. It's a tipping point. And once the tipping point is passed, there's no assurance that it will turn back. A lot of Canadians selling their houses in the United States this year are never returning. They're investing elsewhere, and once the money moves out, it doesn't come back. What the United States has misunderstood is just how much it has depended upon snowbird spending to sustain whole communities. For decades, it was woven into the very fabric of local economies, particularly in the likes of Florida. But now, officials can wake up to discover entire neighborhoods, whole enterprises, devoid of the very lifeline that once supported them. And when eventually U.S. media outlets begin running headlines like "The Snowbirds never came back and we don't know why," Canadians won't be perplexed. They'll know precisely why. Here's the bottom line. This snowbird season may go down as the year Canadians said goodbye, for good. And it's not just about politics. It's not just about hurricanes. It's not just about skyrocketing costs. It's the combination of all of it, stacked together, then capped off by shocking moments like Border Patrol raiding firefighters in the middle of a disaster. That's the kind of story that echoes, that tells people, you're not welcome here. So Canadians are making their decision. They're selling out, investing in Canada, or staking their winters in Mexico, Costa Rica, and elsewhere. And U.S. communities that had relied on that predictable stream of Canadian dollars are in for a rude awakening. This is what you get when you take people for granted. If this analysis was helpful, do me a solid. Like this video, share it with a friend, and subscribe so you don't miss the next deep dive. Thanks for watching and have an awesome day.